Social Development recently launched the Chommy Programme in partnership with USAID, and one of the aims is to help young people make sound choices regarding sexual relationships. It's hoped this will reduce the prevalence of HIV infections and teenage pregnancies, but there are concerns the practice of ukuthwala is also contributing to teen pregnancies. To discuss this, we're joined by Indigenous Knowledge Systems expert, Professor Pitika Ntuli. Prof, thank you so much for your time and good morning.
Thank you and good morning to the viewers.
I think maybe to start off, just your reaction in terms of the indigenous knowledge systems that may have eroded over the years, primarily in the fundamentals of value systems and how to conduct yourself, that has led to the high rise of teenage pregnancy.
Yeah, what has happened is that we have been so thoroughly colonized that we no longer know our culture, and when we know a bit of it, and then we, of course, corrupt it. The issue of ukuthwala, people translate it into English, kidnapping, and immediately you use a foreign name for an indigenous one, then you create problems. Ukuthwala originally, culturally, it's when a young man and a young woman are in love, and one of the parents do not want the other person. Let's say we do not want this makoti, or we do not want this mkwenyan. Then people will then go up and twala this person to the place of the beloved, in order to force the parents to come for a meeting with the other parents. But nowadays, then, people just simply do it. Young girls are being, kidnapped and, taken to different places. Rape, takes place. Those are some of the bastardization of something which is culturally very sound.
But, Prof, that's one thing to say the original version of ukuthwala, or the concept itself, was consensual. These were two lovebirds, almost a Romeo and Juliet kind of love story. Mm-hmm. But in this case, when we look at ukuthwala as it is being practiced, you're saying that it's not ukuthwala, it's criminality, where it is now kidnapping, abduction, to violate somebody else's rights.
Yeah, no, definitely it is. It is taking people who are not ready, to be taken, who do not want, to be taken, and no understanding actually of it. But within culture, you had a system of amaqhiza. Amaqhiza, you always have an older girl mentoring a younger one about everything to do with issues of womanhood and femininity and all of those things. Those were, there. Even in my growing up, even at school, we had udedi and no mama, the older people who adopt you and mentor you. But all of those things are eroded, and then what therefore remains is just sheer criminality and the molesting of innocent people.
How do we reinstate those values, reintroduce them back into society? Because more often than not, we tend to have academic discussions, with the converted of how society should conduct itself. In the meantime, the fundamentals have really broken down.
Yeah, what happened is that there are a lot of people, community people, who are working, who are still maintaining these cultures. Like, for instance, the whole practice of ukuthwala, which is another one that is also misunderstood. That is there also to protect the young women until they come of age. There are community groups that are being done. There are some of the people in universities that are promoting some of these things outside what government or universities themselves or schools themselves. These things will be introduced even into life orientation right up at a very early age.
Yes, but what we're seeing, Prof, is a high rise of teenage pregnancies, and these may not necessarily be as a result of an older person taking advantage of a underage girl, but that in itself is statutory rape, but we shouldn't even call it underage sex or any other terminology. What we're seeing is that there seems to be neglect. Children are left to their own volition to try and figure out and navigate life through adolescence and puberty and resulting into teenage pregnancy. Where's the concept of ubuntu? You know, versus Kataza, if you see an older person, that you would relate to them as your mother or your parent. We don't seem to have that anymore.
No, we don't. We have, lost the very principle of ubuntu. What I referred to earlier on of the system of amaqhiza, all of those things are now gone. So it has become now a kind of a wild, west, and the victims always turn up to be the young, innocent, people who have got no clue of how some of these things have got to be handled.
But the young having children young themselves is just a vicious cycle repeating itself, because if you are ill-equipped to raise a sound individual, the likelihood is that they will perpetuate that cycle. Yeah,
I mean, that perpetuation, is there. It has become almost a norm in many of our, communities now. You do not turn away, from the cosmic mind, which is God, that controls everything, or to your ancestors, or even to your own elders. People have lost that sense of respect, because the sense of Ubuntu is not exemplified anywhere. All we do when we get into the news, you're going to hear of, murders, greed, corruption, all the very, very negative things that are dominating, actually our lives. Doesn't give a number of people an opportunity to build, these societies. Some of the communities that are dealing with issues such as this are underfunded, and some of them are supported by churches. It is always somebody else rather than where these things should be supported from, straight, actually, from government.
We're going to have to leave it there, Prof. Thank you so much. Truly an education, always speaking to him. That's Professor Pitika Ntuli, expert in African Indigenous Knowledge Systems.